Okay, so you've seen a ton about electric vehicles lately, right? I mean, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
But are they really going to be how we all get around, or is it just hype?
Yeah, it's a big question.
It is a huge question, and that's what we're looking at today on the deep dive.
Awesome.
We've got a bunch of sources about this. We've got articles, we've got analyses of the companies that are making this happen, and even how EVs are showing up, just in our daily lives. So what we want to do is cut through all the noise with you and figure out what's really at the heart of it all.
Yeah.
Like what actually makes these things go,
Right.
what are the roadblocks, and what cool stuff is coming next. That's what we're diving into.
I think it's a really interesting time because we've had over 100 years of, the internal combustion engine
Right.
just totally ruling the roads, and now we're seeing this big shift, maybe even a total change.
Yeah.
So to start us off, for people who are new to this whole thing, what exactly is an electric vehicle?
All right, let's break it down. Basically, an electric vehicle, or EV, runs on a pretty simple idea. It's completely powered by electricity.
Right.
Unlike regular cars that burn gas or diesel.
Yep.
Think of it like your cell phone. You plug it in, charge the battery, and that juice powers the car.
Yeah.
And that's the big thing, right? Why they're supposed to be so much better for the environment.
Right.
Zero emissions from the tailpipe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, the main difference is what's called the powertrain.
Right.
In a gas car, you've got that whole complex engine with a ton of moving parts.
Oh, yeah.
But with an EV, it's way simpler. You've got an electric motor, the battery pack to hold all the energy, and some electronics to manage it all.
Right.
And you're right, zero emissions from the tailpipe is a huge plus.
Huge.
Yeah.
So this isn't, totally new. The idea of electric cars has been around for a while.
Right.
But what's made them work now are the big changes in the tech, especially with batteries. Batteries now can hold way more energy, which means you can drive farther on a single charge. And the price of those batteries has been dropping, which makes EVs more affordable for more people.
Absolutely.
Plus, electric motors themselves have become super efficient at turning that electricity into motion.
Yeah.
Getting the car moving.
It's pretty amazing.
It's really cool. And what's fascinating is how these big leaps in tech have pushed certain companies to the front of this whole EV revolution.
Yeah, you're right.
So when we talk about who's really leading the charge, there are a few names that immediately come to mind.
For sure.
I mean, you can't talk about EVs without talking about Tesla.
Right.
They didn't just build electric cars, they completely changed how you buy a car and what it's like to own one.
Yeah.
With their sleek designs, that cutting-edge tech like the autopilot, and their own network of superchargers.
Right.
It's amazing, but they're not the only ones anymore.
Yeah.
We're seeing some really cool new companies like Rivian
with you.
with their electric trucks and SUVs that are made for going off-road and being adventurous.
Yeah.
And then you have Lucid Motors, who are all about luxury, high-performance electric sedans. So
It's high-end for sure.
high-end, exactly.
But I think it's important we don't forget the big car companies that have been around forever. Like Ford and General Motors.
Absolutely.
They're taking what they've learned from making cars for decades,
Right.
and they're using that to bring out electric versions of their popular cars so that everyday people can get them.
It's smart.
So it really does feel like this race is on to see who will be the top dog in this new electric world. And we're constantly hearing about new EVs, crazy features, and companies teaming up.
Yeah, it's definitely getting more and more intense. It feels like every week there's something new.
Absolutely.
And it's not just about the technology being cool. There are some really solid reasons why people are seriously thinking about going electric.
Yeah.
So let's get into some of those big benefits.
So for a lot of people, the main reason is the environment. We've talked about this already, but no tailpipe emissions means cleaner air, especially in cities with tons of people.
Absolutely.
And if we look at the bigger picture, if enough people switch to EVs,
Right.
we could really cut down on greenhouse gases,
Right.
which
Yeah.
could help us fight climate change.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's the money you could save.
Oh, yeah.
Think about it. No more filling up your tank every week,
Yeah, that gets expensive.
which can really add up.
It really does.
Electricity is usually way cheaper than gas.
Definitely.
And EVs usually need less maintenance because they have fewer moving parts compared to a regular engine.
Right.
Less stuff to break down.
Less to go wrong. Exactly.
One of the articles we read even talked about a Tesla owner in California who said they saved thousands of dollars on gas in just a few years.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's a lot of money. Yeah, and the savings go beyond just gas and repairs.
Right.
Electric motors are just naturally better at using energy. they can turn way more of the energy they use into actual movement. So for the same amount of energy, an EV can usually go farther than a gas car.
It's pretty incredible when you think about it. So we've got all these potential benefits, but like with any big change, there are some speed bumps and things we need to be realistic about. It's not all sunshine and rainbows on the road to an all-electric future.
Right. Definitely not. There are some big challenges we have to deal with if we want everyone to be driving EVs.
Right.
One of the biggest ones right now is charging.
That makes sense.
While we are seeing more charging stations popping up,
Right.
finding a charger that's easy to use and that you can rely on, especially if you're driving a long way, can still be a huge pain.
Absolutely. Especially in some areas.
Definitely. And that brings us to what people call range anxiety.
Oh yeah, range anxiety. It's a real thing.
Right, which basically means people are afraid of running out of battery before they can find a place to charge up.
Yeah.
Even though batteries are getting better, a lot of people are still worried about it. If you're going on a road trip in an EV, you got to plan it out more carefully, and you might have to stop for longer than you would if you were just filling up a gas tank.
Right, and those stops can sometimes be pretty long.
They can be. And we also need to think about the environmental impact of making the batteries themselves.
It's true. People don't always think about that.
Right. Digging up the materials and making these batteries takes a lot of energy and can be bad for the environment too.
Right.
Plus, even though we're making progress, figuring out how to recycle all the parts of an EV battery when it's done in a way that's cheap and doesn't hurt the planet, that's still a tough problem to solve.
It feels like we're in this weird in-between time where the technology is getting better and we're trying to build all the stuff we need to make it work, but it's not quite there yet. But the good news is that lots of smart people are working on these problems. We're seeing more charging stations, new battery materials that are more sustainable, and better ways to recycle those batteries, and just pushing the limits of what batteries can do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's encouraging to see that innovation happening.
Yeah, it is.
And it's really interesting to see how this shift to electric is even showing up in our culture.
It is.
I mean, they're not just this niche thing anymore.
Right.
They're popping up in movies, music videos,
oh yeah,
commercials, everywhere.
It's true.
You see them all the time now.
You do. You really do. EVs are often shown as these sleek, futuristic cars, like a symbol of being modern and caring about the environment and tech savvy.
Yeah.
One of the sources even talked about the futuristic cars in Blade Runner.
Oh, yeah.
It was science fiction then, but it kind of feels like it's influencing what we think advanced cars should look like. And now you see EVs all over TV shows, which makes them feel more normal and like something anyone could have.
Definitely. It makes you think, too, about how that kind of representation can actually change what people think about EVs.
Oh, for sure.
And how fast they start to catch on. When you see something over and over again in movies and TV and it looks cool, it can definitely change what people want and what they think is normal.
Totally. And we're seeing more cities really start to plan for EVs. They're putting in charging stations and might even give perks to people who drive electric cars.
That's interesting, yeah.
It is. So looking forward, what exciting stuff can we expect to see in the world of EVs? What's coming up that could really kick this transition into high gear?
Well, one thing that's got a lot of people excited is what they call solid-state batteries.
Okay, I've heard of those.
A lot of experts think this could be the next big leap forward. Imagine batteries that let you drive much farther, charge way faster than the lithium-ion batteries we have now, and could be even safer. That could be a game changer for those people who are still on the fence about EVs.
That would solve a lot of problems for sure.
It would solve a lot of problems.
So what about self-driving cars?
Oh, yeah.
We hear all the time about how self-driving is the future of electric cars.
That's right. A lot of EV companies, especially Tesla, are putting a ton of money into developing self-driving technology.
It makes sense.
The idea is that in the future, your EV could drive you around safely.
That would be amazing.
Without you having to do anything. It can totally change your commute and maybe even make the road safer overall. There are still some things to figure out, of course, like rules and regulations and the tech itself.
Right.
But it's definitely one of the big areas where there's a lot of work happening in the EV world.
And we can't forget about charging. It seems like the goal is to make charging an EV as quick and easy as filling up a gas tank.
Exactly. They're working on what they call ultra-fast charging networks.
Okay.
Which are basically super powerful charging stations They can get your car charged up way faster.
Right.
That would make it much easier to take long trips in an EV.
Yeah, that would make a big difference. But the question is, how quickly can we get this new tech out there?
Exactly.
And how widely will it be available in different places?
It's a big question.
Will EVs be the only cars on the road in the next 10 or 20 years?
I don't know. It's hard to say.
It's hard to say because there are so many things that could affect that.
So many factors for sure.
Right.
And it makes you think about the bigger picture. You know, like what governments are doing and how the choices we make fit into all this.
Right. It does feel like a lot of things are coming together to shape the future of EVs.
It really does. I mean, governments can do a lot to help people switch to EVs.
Right.
Things like tax breaks,
Sure.
giving money back to people who buy EVs,
Right.
or helping pay for them. These things can really make a difference in getting more people to go electric.
Absolutely. And we're even seeing some countries and cities saying that they want to ban the sale of new gas cars in the next few decades
Wow.
and only allow electric cars. So that's a big push, too.
It's a big push.
It is. And then you've got other things happening, like gas prices going up,
Oh, yeah.
which we've all seen lately.
Yeah, for sure.
And when gas gets really expensive, suddenly EVs start looking a lot more appealing.
Right.
Because they're cheaper to run in the long run.
It's true. It really feels like everything's lining up to make EVs the future.
It does. It feels like all these different pieces, the technology, the charging stations, the government support, and the cost of gas, it's all starting to point in the same direction.
Yeah. I mean, it brings up an interesting question for everyone listening.
Right.
Thinking about all these things,
Right.
what makes the most sense for you right now?
That's a good question.
If we look at the good and the bad, EVs are great for the environment,
Right.
and they can save you money in the long run.
Right.
But they still have some problems with charging
Right.
and how far you can drive on a single charge.
Right.
Regular gas cars are easy to fill up,
Yeah.
and you can usually drive farther, but they pollute the air, and you're always paying for gas. So depending on where you live, how much you drive, what's important to you,
Right.
one option might be better for you right now.
That's a good point. So there you have it, a deep dive into the world of electric vehicles. We talked about what they are,
Yeah.
who the big players are,
Yeah.
the good stuff, the not so good stuff,
Uh-huh.
how they're showing up in our lives,
Yeah.
and the cool things coming up in the future.
It's pretty wild to think about how fast all of this is changing.
It is. It's really fast.
It feels like there's some new discovery all the time. New battery tech,
Great.
faster charging,
Yeah,
totally new ways to design cars, new things they can do. It's amazing.
it really is. And that brings us to one final thought for you to chew on. After learning all about how this tech works,
Right.
all the stuff they're building to make it work,
Yeah.
and even how people feel about EVs,
Yeah.
what stands out to you the most? What are you most excited about? What worries you? Think about those solid-state batteries we talked about.
How easy it is to find a charger where you live, and how all these things might affect what you think about the rise of EVs.
Yeah, food for thought.
Absolutely.